Talks about how Noah's flood caused, you know, the talks about how Noah's flood caused the layers in the earth.
Uh,
Even though we know Noah's flood, the world now. I want to let you know I'm still a Christian, but I don't believe that Noah's flood was global. I believe it was a local flood. I'd take
yeah.
the local flood theory. So it
So you,
doesn't.
so
This
you don't
doesn't.
take the Bible as literal history.
No, because if you translate the word whole world, like if you go back to like the Noah's flood and stuff, it says if you go back to the original Hebrew, it says all the land. So it's not talking about the whole world, which again is the reason why I don't trust creationists even in their own biblical arguments, because they don't. That's why I say it's psychotheology, because they don't even use correct terms in their arguments to support
Yeah, they
their
have a very
biblical.
they seem to have a very narrow idea or interpretation in order for it to fit
Exactly.
their, like, it seems like a lot of their arguments don't go just against evolution, but like the whole of biology and physics
I
and
know.
everything else that just very easily shows discrepancy in their literal history interpretation.
I mean, it's not even. They're not even a psycho science. They're both a psychoscience, psychotheology, psycho scholarship, psycho history. I mean, psycho everything. Like I can go on. It's ridiculous how much bullshit arguments they use, even to support their own claims. It's oh my gosh.
Hmm.
It's an embarrassment to
It
the
is an embarrassment.
it's an embarrassment not just to science, but to also the Christianity itself. It's a huge embarrassment
It
to see
is, yeah.
these men going and freaking making us Christians look bad, and really most Christians accept evolution, but no, you can't go by that interpretation. You have to go by our interpretation,
It's like
even though
it's like you have to decide have one side or the other. You can't choose, you can't have both. Like you gotta pick a side. What
Yeah,
side are you on?
exactly,
they're contributing to the squashing of the moderation between religion and science. They're contributing
exactly,
toward everyone in the middle to pick a side when they don't really need to.
exactly.
Because the moment you force people to pick a side is the moment you lose individuality. It's when you start thinking in mob think.
Oh man, I totally agree with you, dude.
Yeah, that's not what America is for, but they don't seem to see that.
Exactly. Chapter 6, I think. So it talks about how the Earth is 6,000 years old, how to date a rock. Again, more they talk about the
How to date a
carbon.
rock. Is that what it says? You get
Yeah, how
it gives
to
you a tutorial for how to
how. Yeah,
measure a
that's what
rock's age.
I'm not joking, dude. It actually says that in the book. You can go look it up.
How to date a rock. Henry Morris. Like, I'm pretty sure dating rocks takes about like a couple years of college to really understand.
It's oh my gosh. It's
What
I,
exactly does it say?
It says, all right, so I'm just going to quote, one of the main objections to creationism has always been its supposedly too short time scale. It seems to be part of our modern culture somehow to believe that the Earth is billions of years old prior to the extensions of uninformationism in the early 19th century. However, a much shorter time scale had been held by the great majority of science. What? Great majority?
Well,
What?
I think they might be, a little out of date.
Oh no,
Because of
oh
course,
no, it's way out of date. This book was
of
written like,
course, the farther back in time you go, the less precise our instruments were for dating. So of course, the
yeah.
dates are gonna change.
This book is actually old. It's like I don't. It was probably written around the time when the movement started, so it's kind of outdated. But they're still using the same arguments. It's
Yeah,
like
that's interesting.
talks about how uninformationism is a hoax and blah blah whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next apes or men. So chapter 7 goes over the if
Apes are
we
men. Whenever I hear
Yeah.
that, I think of dachshund or dog,
Yeah.
or tiger or cat.
Yep.
It makes no sense.
So the origin of man, you know, how we didn't evolve from apes, even though evolution, again, we evolved from common descent. Now, so
What's it say?
just, I don't know, it's kind of, I haven't gotten deep, again, I haven't gotten deep into this one, but it talks about how God didn't, you know, you make us evolve, he automatically snapped his fingers, and so it talks about hoaxes such as, hold on, let me just name a few. The nether thin man, Homo erectus, they say how those are all hoaxes, even though the scientific community were the ones that proved, like Piltdown Man, you know, stuff like that, how they're all
Hmm.
hoaxes and stuff. And then it goes
Like,
over here. What were you saying?
nothing, nothing. Go on.
Oh, so then it talks about transitional fossils, how there are none, and you know, again, straw man. Um, hold on, let's see.
Hmm.
And then the last chapter, which is I think chapter 9 or 8 or 9, um, like the last chapter is like about 1/6 like in diameter of the whole book. Like the last chapter is like the biggest chapter, and it goes over the
Oh.
biblical arguments for young Earth creationism, and you know stuff like that.
Hmm.
So
It's only $8 on Google Books. I might like do a critique. Wouldn't that be fun?
well, you can actually read, like if you go on Google Books, you can actually like read it for yourself. All you gotta do is like you know save it. You can look at it if you want. But yeah, that's
Be-
basically it. Again, they're using like literally the same arguments, outdated arguments they're using from this book.
Oh yeah, this is copyright 1985.
Yeah, I know.
So they
That's
haven't changed in literally 30 years
Yep.
as of 2015.
It's
And then if you
embarrassing.
compare that to how science progresses, like a lot of our ideas changed in the span of just like 1 decade,
Yeah.
much less 30 years.
They're still stuck in the 80s science.
Yeah, that's when Hovind started making his seminars in the 1980s.
Yeah.
The 80s would be saying they were stuck in the 80s would be generous. More like they easily quote like
Hmm.
the 70s or earlier.
Yeah.
So
Are
yeah,
there
that's
any other
bas
points you want to bring up?
no, that's pretty much it. As far as that book goes.
Have you considered reading um, books about evolution from actual scientists?
I was thinking about it, but I mean, right now, I probably not at this moment, but
Hmm.
I'm thinking about maybe reading like maybe Why Evolution is True. You know that I don't know who the author is, but I'm gonna read
Oh yeah.
that just so that I can get rid of all this pseudoscience out of my head and get a
Yeah.
clear understanding of what evolution theory says. So
They have some nice books on Audible about that. I have a few of them. I got Undeniable by Bill Nye, The Greatest Show on Earth by Richard Dawkins, and The Ancestor's Tale by Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, I love audiobook. Sponsor us audiobook. I
yeah,
much prefer to be read a story than just listen to it.
yeah.
The only problem with the Ancestor's Tale one on Audible is it's the abridged version. It's not the full version.
Oh yeah.
All right, do you guys have any points you want to bring up?
No,
Um.
I'm in the same boat as Kyle here. I was never really a creationist, but a theistic evolutionist for a while, but never really got into creationism, even when I was in church.
Yeah. I just want to say that Um, it was very recently that I was exposed to the creationist movement until until I got to the point where they just made a mockery of religion in general, to the point where I didn't want to identify as religious anymore. So it's kind of interesting to me how these people who just have no regard to facts or logic, that they somehow push people like me away from religion in general, which is completely counterproductive for their agenda.
Yeah, they were probably
Ex-
always this crazy, but until YouTube came along, nobody could really on a on a real on a version like big version like they are now.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's their false
it's
dichotomy mindset. It's either you or it's either them or us. There's no
I know,
middle
and
ground between.
that's the thing. Like that's I think that's the biggest one of the biggest problems with creationism is that like either you accept what they say or you're not or you can't, you know, be religious. It's like it's
Yeah,
I
and it
mean,
seems to work for some people.
exactly. And it's very sad to see people that go around and make a mockery of science, say how
Hmm.
it contradicts the Bible, even though it really doesn't, you know. It just depends on what interpretation you use.
Schnick, did you have something to say?
Not really. I mean, I'm not sure what everyone else's beliefs are, but I know that I, for one, I think I'm being watched. I think I'm being predetermined. So
Uh huh.
Yeah,
I do see how evolution works, though, but that's why that's why I'm kind of confused why it has some people believe it has to be one way or the other, like, oh, evolution exists so therefore there is no god, or oh, evolution doesn't exist so therefore there is. Why can't it be both ways?
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is that they get confused between evolution and naturalism. Like evolution only talks about the diversity of life. It does not deal with, you know, how the universe works or, you know, the
Hmm.
purpose of it. It just talks about it's a theory. It's not a worldview. It's not a belief. It's a scientific theory. So
Yeah.
they get very confused between like whenever I go on like YouTube and like look up the comics or like when I go on the creationist websites, they always talk about oh well well the Big Bang where nothing collided with nothing to create every well dude that's not even evolution, that's not even naturalism says that. I mean,
Yeah. They
come
they
on.
just lump all the natural sciences into one, and they lump all of science into just one worldview.
Exactly.
Like they confuse methodological naturalism for philosophical naturalism, and I guess it's
I
just
know.
the naturalism part that throws them off, because science itself can't deal with things that are not natural,
Exactly.
because it studies nature. That's what it is. You can't study that which is outside nature. That simply can't happen. So they think that when people study science, they automatically think that all supernatural ideas are just non-existent, when supernatural ideas can be possible, but they're just not considered because they can't be tested.
Exactly. And that's the whole point that they need to understand is that we live in the natural world. You know, you can. It's like science only views. It can only like test or prove what happens in the natural world. It has nothing to do with the supernatural, and that's
Honestly, it's
why
what Alfred Hitchcock once said. One has to die to know the true ending.
Oh yeah,
exactly.